susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manonood.
When we think of education, we often measure success through grades, test scores, and achievements. But what about emotions, values, and character? Today, we explore the least studied yet most crucial aspect of education, the affective domain.
Welcome to this special documentary, The Assessment in the Affective Domain, where we look beyond knowledge and skills to measure what truly matters, emotions, values, and attitudes. Because as Andy Hargreaves once said, measure what you value instead of valuing only what you can measure.
Sa aming paglalakbay, aming narating ang Sulangon National High School. Agad naming napansin ang kaayusan at kagandahan ng kanilang paaralan. Napapalibutan ito ng luntiang mga puno at malinis na kapaligiran na nagpapakita ng disiplina at malasakit ng mga mag-aaral at guro. Habang kami ay naglalakad, aming nasilayan ng masasayang mga bata na masiglang naglalaro at nagkwekwentuhan, puno ng sigla at kasiyahan. Bukod dito, naabutan din namin silang nagdiriwang ng Family Day o Araw ng Pamilya, isang espesyal na okasyon kung saan ang mga mag-aaral, magulang at guro ay nagkakaisa sa iba't ibang aktibidad. Maraming palaro ang isinasagawa, may masiglang pagsasayaw at masasayang tawanan.
Sa loob ng maraming taon, ang edukasyon ay tinuturing na ng isang proseso ng paglinang sa kaalaman at kasanayan. Ngunit, sapat na ba ang talino at kakayahang pisikal upang mahubog ang isang buo at responsableng individual? Ayon sa Bloom's taxonomy, may tatlong mahalagang bahagi ng pagkatuto. Ito ay ang cognitive o kaalaman, psychomotor o kasanayang pisikal, at affective o emotional at panlipunang pagunlad.
Today we are diving into the three fundamental domains of Bloom's taxonomy. Whether you are a student, teacher, or lifelong learner, understanding this framework can transform the way you approach learning and teaching. First, let's talk about the Bloom's taxonomy is. Developed by educational psychologist Benjamin Bloom in 1956. This framework is designed to categorize and classify educational goals into different levels of complexity and specificity. It's divided into three domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Starting with cognitive domain, which is perhaps the most widely used, this domain focuses on intellectual skills and knowledge acquisition. It involves 6 levels, starting from simple recall or recognition of facts as remembering to the more complex tasks like creating. Let's see how this works with an example. Imagine a science class. At a remembering level, students might recall the parts of a plant. By the creating level, they could be designing an experiment to test how different environments affect plant growth. Teacher can use this domain to structure learning objectives, assessments, and activities that promote higher order thinking. Next up is the affective domain, which deals with emotions, attitudes, and feelings. This domain ranges from simple awareness and reception, receiving, to more complex levels like categorizing, where values are integrated into one's personality. For instance, in an environmental club, students at the receiving level might listen to issue about recycling. By the categorizing stage, they actively advocate and lead recycling initiatives, showing deep commitment to environmental values. This domain is crucial for developing personal responsibility and social interactions, both vital in educational settings. Finally, we have the psychomotor domain, which is about physical movement, coordination, and use of the motor skills areas. Development in this domain progresses from basic movements, perception to skilled actions, origination, where new movements are created. Consider a PE class learning a new sport. Initially, students understand basic movements. As they advance, they might develop new strategies or movement unique to their skill set. Educators can use this to help students develop physical skills and precise movements through structured practice and feedback. So there you have it. Bloom's taxonomy helps educators create targeted learning experiences and assess student progress across cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains.
Why do you think affective domain is often overlooked? Okay. It is often overlooked in the assessment because affective domain is hard to achieve, unlike sa cognitive. Okay, basically, sa class, more on cognitive. So, kung unsa ang like objectives, dapat more on sa brain. Ang affective man good, that is like subjective. Okay, about siya sa feelings, sa emotions, asa pa na, basta about sa emotional sa bata. So, students have various emotions depende sa ilahang kaganahan sa kuan, sa topic or sa klase. So, usahay makuan na gid siya, ma-overlook na gid siya kay moto. Isod siya i-identify because of its subjectivity. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Affective domain is complex because it involves emotion, values, and attitudes, which are subjective and difficult to quantify. Assessing characters and emotional growth requires deeper observation and reflection.
Ang makabagong edukasyon ay hindi lamang tungkol sa pagkatuto ng mga impormasyon. Binibigyang diin ng social and emotional learning o SEL ang 5 mahalagang kasanayan: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, at responsible decision-making.
Ayon sa edukador ni si Andy Hargreaves, measure what you value instead of valuing only what you can measure. Ang edukasyon ay hindi lamang tungkol sa pagsukat ng talino, pati na rin sa pagtataya ng tunay na pagpapahalaga ng emosyon ng isang individual. Ano nga ba ang epektibong domain?
Ang epektibong domain ay tumutukoy ito sa paglago ng damdamin, emosyon at saloobin ng isang tao. Ayon kina Navarro at Santos, ito ang pinakamahirap sukatin sa 3 domain ng edukasyon. Ngunit ito rin ang pundasyon ng tunay na makabuluhang pagkatuto.
So ating kukunan ng panayam si Ma'am Suzette Camarada, Head Teacher 1 ng Sulangon National High School, kung ano ang masasabi niya tungkol sa kung paano nakakaapekto ang soft skills sa pag-ugali at pagkatuto ng mga mag-aaral. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Para sa iyo, ma'am, paano nakakaapekto ang soft skills sa pag-uugali at pagkatuto ng mga mag-aaral?
Okay, ang soft skills ay napakahalaga para sa pagkatuto at pag-uugali ng mga mag-aaral sapagkat ito ay kinakailangan. No? Kinakailangan na maisa sa buhay ng isang guro sa loob ng kanyang pagtuturo sa loob ng classroom, no? Sapagkat ito'y napapaloob dito ang mga social skills, ang management, ang academic skills niya, no? At mahalaga ito upang malinang ng mabuti ang mag-aaral hindi lamang sa kanyang akademiko na aspeto kundi maging sa kanyang pag-uugali, no? At ito ay isa sa mga tinitiyak, no, ng isang guro sa pagpasok sa loob ng classroom, no, na maibigay at malinang o ano pa ba, talagang maitanim sa ating mag-aaral. Lang sa ganun magkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na holistic person or learners after sa isang klase o hindi man sa klase o sa buhay ng isang mag-aaral.
Ang soft skills ay tumutukoy sa paraan ng pakikisalamuha ng mga mag-aaral sa kanilang kapwa, kung paano nila hinaharap ang stress at kung paano sila tumutugon sa mga hamon sa buhay. Ang isang mag-aaral na may mataas na emotional intelligence ay mas may pagkakataong magtagumpay sa tunay na mundo kahit hindi siya pinakamatalino sa loob ng klase. Ang soft skills ay kasing halaga ng hard skills o technical na kasanayan at ito ay tumutukoy sa paraan ng pakikisalamuha. At ito ay may 4 na kategorya.
May mga pangunahing kategorya ang soft skills at ito ang social skills, self-management, academic soft skills, and approaches to learning.
Social skills. What are they and why are they important? What are social skills? Social skills are skills we use to successfully interact or get along with others. What are some examples of social skills? A few examples would be respecting others, asking for help, listening to others, being patient, and being a team player. There are a lot of social skills. All of them play an important role in our lives, and all of them should be learned and mastered. Why are social skills so important? Social skills will determine how well you get along with others, how well we are able to function in our daily lives, and influence our independence. Social skills will have an impact on your success. They will impact your success in school, in the workplace, as well as in your relationships. How do good social skills influence success in school? Studies have shown that students are more likely to do better in school and learning. This is because they feel more confident, make important connections with others, and feel part of a group in school. Those that have good social skills are more likely to be happy and have healthy relationships. People with good social skills are able to better communicate their feelings and ideas. Also, there are a lot less misunderstandings and conflicts. The foundation of a strong friendship depends on good communication and good social skills. Social skills are needed in order to succeed in the workplace as well. A person's ability to succeed at work has been directly linked to their social skills. Bad social skills, poor job performance. Can social skills be learned? Absolutely. We start learning social skills as babies. And we never stop learning social skills. Everyone can learn to improve their social skills. How can you improve your social skills? First, you need to understand what social skills are and be aware of them. You've started that process. Second, you must be willing to learn and practice. When it comes to improving your social skills, practice is essential. This means you'll have to challenge yourself. You'll need to place yourself in uncomfortable situations. Though improving your social skills will not be easy, it will take hard work and practice. It's important to remember the payoff for improving your social skills will lead to a brighter and happier future. Now that you're aware of what social skills are and the importance of social skills, go out there and grab success.
What is self-management? Self-management are the abilities we develop to regulate our behavior, to plan and accomplish our goals. Let's take a look at the attributes of self-management. Paint container represents you. The red paint represents your skills in managing your emotions and identifying and using stress management strategies. The orange paint represents your skills in exhibiting self-discipline and self-motivation. The yellow paint represents your skills in setting personal and collective goals and using planning and organizational skills. The green paint represents your skills in showing the courage to take initiative and demonstrating personal and collective agency. In self-management, the skills you develop are shown through your actions. Your actions pour out into society. The following are examples of bad self-management skills. The forecast predicts that the weather is going to be fantastic the entire week. You decided that you want to ride your bike to work each morning this week because your job is only a few blocks away from your home. On Monday and Tuesday, you got to the office early each day. But on Wednesday morning, you woke up late. Oh yeah, now you remember. You stayed up all night Tuesday night to finish a project that was supposed to be done 2 weeks ago. Now you're late for work, and the presentation started 20 minutes ago. You jump into your car and race to work. Now the police want to have a talk. Don't worry, you'll plan better in the future. The following are examples of good self-management skills. Self-management is achieved in 4 crucial steps. 1. Time management. Have you ever heard the saying, "Time waits for no man"? This is true. You have to be disciplined and organized with time management skills and focusing on making your priorities fit into your schedule immediately. 2. Motivation. Showing initiative by finding the motivation to act and following through with your plans is key in self-management. 3. Action. Managing your emotions and stress levels through calming techniques like deep breathing can help you reach your personal and group goals. 4. Ownership. Taking ownership of your actions and emotions is the point where you achieve a high level of self-management.
Approaches to learning, ATL, skills. Developing approaches to learning skills has become more important than ever through the schooling process. You must be equipped with skills and strategies that allow you to be a thinker, communicator, risk-taker, open-minded, balanced, and knowledgeable. If you can indeed follow the framework of the International Baccalaureate curriculums and develop a continuum, you can succeed in challenging objectives of International Baccalaureate Diploma Program subjects.
¿Cómo están? Bien.
Nancy Hagstrom has high expectations and regard for her Spanish students. And in today's class, she's leaving them largely unsupervised so she can conduct small group assessments in conversational Spanish.
So in Spanish 3, we're starting to talk about the Mexican Revolution and the art of Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, and they will have to be able to talk to each other about those themes in Spanish. And so what I've spent the whole first month of the year doing is prepping the kids to be comfortable with this standard because it's going to be a through line all year.
When leaving students to work independently, many teachers assign busy work because they don't want to be interrupted. But as we'll see in Nancy's class, just the opposite is true. By combining clear expectations with work that really matters, Nancy has created a classroom context where her students are productive even when she's out of the room.
Nice job, guys. Yay. So one of the challenges today is that I was doing an assessment that I had to be present for with small groups, which meant that I had to leave the rest of the class to their own devices. What allowed that to be successful and what allowed the kids in class to be on task was that they had two very concrete but relatively high stakes tasks.
Before beginning the conversation assessments, Nancy told students to independently budget their unsupervised time between practicing for the conversation assessment and building background knowledge for the upcoming art unit.
Van a empezar a leer un librito de Frida Kahlo. Bien? Whenever I have kids do independent work, I make sure I have a structure for the independent work. La rubrica. So let's look at this in English for a second.
Using a rubric for the conversation practice and a note catcher for the Frida Kahlo text, Nancy set the stage for an engaged and unsupervised work period.
Por favor, necesito grupo uno, aquí. Aiden, Sarah, Gustavo, Wyatt y Jack. Yo no voy a hablar. ¿Ustedes van a hablar entre sí mismos? One of my goals is to encourage kids to be confident and to access the material while also performing at a high level. If I can make my content feel fun to them, they're going to engage and they're going to rise to the level that I want them to rise to.
Yo me gusta juego la hockey en
At the beginning of the year, I very specifically say to them, this class is going to have independent components. I'm going to be doing assessments when I'm out of the room, and I need to know that I can trust you guys to be doing what you need to do in the room while I'm out of the room so that we can do cool things.
So if you're a teacher who wants to give a lot of independent work time, I think you have to show that you trust the students. The teacher may not be there, but they trust us and they want us to succeed. I think that just reflects on us, like, oh yeah, I can do this. If they trust me, then hey, maybe I have a chance of succeeding.
Adios, muchas gracias todos.
Approaches to learning, ATL, skills. Developing approaches to learning skills has become more important than ever through the schooling process. You must be equipped with skills and strategies that allow you to be a thinker, communicator, risk-taker, open-minded, balanced, and knowledgeable. If you can indeed follow the framework of the International Baccalaureate curriculums and develop a continuum, you can succeed in challenging objectives of International Baccalaureate Diploma Program subjects. Communication skills. First of all, you need to improve your communication skills. Let me tell you that communication means exchanging thoughts, messages, and information through interaction. However, it is not only about exchanging information and messages, but you also need to communicate effectively. When your message is easy to understand, this means that you are communicating effectively. In the education system, effective communication is essential. Think about it, maximum sharing of knowledge can only happen if teachers and students are communicating effectively. Here, you might want to note that effective communication is not only verbal, it also involves non-verbal and visual communication. If you want to improve the verbal communication skills of your students, I would suggest that you give them an open-minded topic and ask them to speak for a minute. Moreover, you can organize debating competitions within your class. On the other hand, to help your students improve their non-verbal communication skills, you can ask them to present information in the form of graphs or tables. Or you could also play games such as dumb charades.
Ang taxonomy ng mga layunin sa edukasyon.
Kung paano tayo tinutulungan ng Bloom's Taxonomy sa pag-unawa ng cognitive learning, ganun din ang Krathwohl Taxonomy 1964 sa pag-oorganisa ng pagkatuto sa epektibong domain. Ipinapakita nito kung paano umuunlad ang saloobin, pagpapahalaga at emosyon ng mga mag-aaral sa paglipas ng panahon. At mayroon itong 5 antas kung saan ang bawat isa ay kumakatawan sa mas malalim na antas ng pagkatuto at paghubog ng pagpapahalaga. Ang unang antas ay ang pagtanggap o receiving. Sa antas na ito, nagiging bukas ang mag-aaral sa mga bagong ideya o pagpapahalaga. Handa silang makinig at bigyang pansin ang mga impormasyon. Ang ikalawa naman ay ang pagtugon o responding. Dito aktibong nakikilahok ang mga mag-aaral sa kanilang mga natutunan. Hindi na lamang sila basta-basta nakikinig, sila ay nakikilahok na. Ang pangatlo naman ay ang pagpapahalaga o valuing. Sa antas na ito ay sinasapuso ng mga mag-aaral ang kanilang mga natutunan at nagiging personal na mahalaga ito sa kanila. Ibig sabihin, nagsimula silang kumilos batay sa kanilang paniniwala. Ang ika-4 naman ay ang pag-oorganisa o organization. Sa punto na ito, hindi lang nila pinahalagahan ng isang bagay. Nagsisimula na silang baguhin ang kanilang mga personal na paniniwala upang isama ito sa kanilang sistema ng pagpapahalaga. At ang panghuli ay ang pagkatao batay sa pagpapahalaga o characterization by value. Sa pinakamataas na antas na ito, ang pagpapahalaga ay nagiging pundasyon ng pagkatao ng mga mag-aaral. Ang kanilang mga paniniwala ay tuluyang humuhubog sa kanilang mga desisyon at pagkilos sa mahabang panahon. Assessing learning in the affective domain.
Paano nga ba natin masukat ang pagkatuto ng mga mag-aaral sa apektibong domain? Ayon kay Macmillan 2007, may 3 itong mabisang paraan. Una, teacher observation. Ang guro ay nagmamasid sa kilos ng mag-aaral tulad ng pakikitungo sa iba at pagpapahalaga sa oras. Student self-report. Ang mag-aaral mismo ang siyang naglalahad ng kanyang pananaw, damdamin sa pamagitan ng paglalahad ng kanyang mga natutunan at pagsulat ng refleksyon. Peer rating. Ang kaklase na isang mag-aaral ang siyang nagbibigay puna at pagsusuri sa kanyang asal at pakikitungo sa iba.
Fix it. I feel like I'm next to a teacher, yet I can relate to my peer more because they're basically my age.
It was really helpful because sometimes you don't get your ideas straight and forget to include something. But when you look at the rubric, you know what you have to include.
Yeah, it helped me because I can see what I did wrong for myself, and then my peers and my friends or whatever, they can tell me so that I can become better. And they can also become better from reading my work.
Through this process, my grading over the years has gone higher for all my students. And it's not because I'm being a generous grader, it's because the kids are so involved in the independent process of learning through peer and self-assessment that they are able to really raise their grade to where they feel it needs to be.
Before I was really doing self-assessment, peer assessment, I wasn't really clear to myself what I was teaching. So if I wasn't clear about it, how are the students going to be clear about it? And then when I had to really sit down and think about that, it totally changed my approach to teaching and what the children learn.
So, how do you do peer assessment? One way to do peer assessment is to use the ladder of feedback created by David Perkins of Harvard University. This method provides a process of critique that guides students to generate kind, thoughtful, and effective feedback. The ladder of feedback asks students to formulate their assessments in the following way. First, questions of clarification, such as, am I reading this correctly? Second, comments on value. For example, what I think works really well is. Third, comments of concern, such as, what I worry about is. And fourth, suggestions for revision, i.e., maybe this part would work better if you. Students may also base their feedback on the rubric you have created with them for the assignment. It is critical that as students confer, you walk around your classroom to monitor progress and ensure that the ladder of feedback is properly applied, that each student is receiving useful feedback, and as importantly, when your class completes the peer assessment process, students will have ample time to revise their work.
Vocabulary that I would try to teach before assessment just never seemed to stick, and now it's like sticking, and they're using it naturally in their speaking. It's amazing that they're able to take ownership of their own work. It's no longer just depending on me to tell them what to do. They're making the decisions themselves.
Their advice sometimes is clearer to their peer because it's not coming from an adult, it's coming from someone that's really on their level. They're a little bit more comfortable to hear the criticism from their peer, as well as the values and compliments that is in their work from their peers.
And I'm always amazed at what they're able to articulate. It's often better than what I would say.
Peer assessment allows me to understand other people's opinion about my work, and because after self-assessment you think like it's perfect, but then you have to make other people think it's perfect also, so you have to have a classmate or a group of people view it, so it can help you better understand other people's opinion, not just your own.
actually makes me think, wow, I actually should change this. And in the end, my work turns out really good because of all the editing.
By trying assessment, you're going to learn what it is you're trying to teach.
The greatest discovery for me is how much power this gives my students as learners.
Ngayon ay ating maririnig ang panayam kay Ma'am Jocelyn Febra Kalipusan, ang guidance counselor ng Sulangon National High School, sa kung paano nila ina-assess ang emotional growth ng mga mag-aaral. Good morning, Ma'am.
Good morning.
As a guidance counselor, how do you assess the emotional growth of students or a learner?
Here in Sulangon National High School, as a guidance counselor, ginagamit ko yung assessment sa emotion ng bata by using some tools. Kasi yung emotion, yung ano nila, yung feelings or damdamin, actually we cannot measure it without using those tools. Like we have this EQ, which is the emotional quotient, and there are a lot of tools that we're going to use. In fact, as of now, my only tool is through in-depth interview. I have this interview for the incoming grade 7. I do conduct this interview every year, and I'm using this tool about myself because on that tool, I'm going to ask questions about the family, about their background, and the last one is about themselves, on how they feel about their life as incoming grade 7 or incoming high school students. And then I do also ask about their feelings or how they feel about themselves when they already finish their elementary. And then that's all. I think with that kind of tool as I'm using, it's just basic. Actually, it's just basic. The questions are just also basic. So from there, I could already have that idea about the students, kung ano yung nagiging feelings nila after they graduate from elementary, how do they feel kapag nagiging high school na sila, tapos yung emotion nila as of the moment, their emotions about their family, about their background, kumbaga doon kasi sa tool na ginagamit ko, ina-ask ko na first is about the family. Okay? I ask them about their family, and then until such questions, nag-ask din ako kung ano yung feelings nila as a student, how do they feel that they are in their transition period from grade 6 to grade 7. Tapos pag may nakita akong problem about sa halimbawa relationship with their family, from there, malalaman ko or masusukat ko na yung emosyon na ano tong student na ito, may struggle ba deep inside, or how do they handle the problems? Kasi ganun yung emosyon, palagi nating sinusukat or kinukuha nating emosyon is through interview. And yung interview, parang initial lang siya. So if you're going to go in deeper about the emotion, you have to use some tools or some form. So meron akong ginagamit dito during the interview. It's just a basic form, questions about the family, background nila, about themselves. Ganun lang. Basic lang. Kasi pag gagamit na tayo ng mga personality tests, emotional quotient ng mga exams, masyadong mahal. Okay? Kasi pinoprovide yun sa Psychological Society of the Philippines. Wala tayo, hindi tayo maka-afford nun. So I just make this my own form of questionnaires para lang masusukat ko yung emosyon ng bata. So from there, makikita ko along the way as time goes by until they graduated, pag may mga students na yung bully or victims of bully, babalik ako doon sa profile ko. Tinatawag ko yung individual inventory profile. So babalik ako doon. Ano bang background ng batang to? Bakit ganito siya? Bakit ganito yung attitude niya? Bakit masyado siyang bully? May problem ba? Like for example, may mga students ako na encounter na yung tinatawag natin na they're using this defense mechanism. So parang sila ba? Yung experience nila sa family, halimbawa, they are battered children in the family. Battered sila ng father nila. So, pagdating dito sa school, ma-amaze ka sa behavior. Bakit siya nang bubuli? Bakit nananakit siya ng classmates? Kasi, when we go back to the family, battered pala siya. At yung father niya is in authority. So, hindi niya kayang suntukin or hindi niya kayang ano yon, yung mag-fight back sa father, hindi niya kaya yun kasi malaki ang father, in authority siya, mas powerful siya. So ang gagawin niya pagdating sa school, yung less powerful na bata, yun ang victim niya. So yun ang defense niya to feel good. Yun yung ano yun. May tawag doon sa isang defense mechanism ng tao. Hindi kita kaya. So dito ako sa iba, yung kaya ko, yung less powerful. So para I could feel safe, tapos parang ma-feel good ako sa self ko. Okay, another behavior ng tao is yung tinatawag na projection. Meron din yan dito sa mga bata. Projection, example, halimbawa, gusto ko ng spaghetti. Pero nahihiya ako. So ang gagawin ko, sasabihin kong siya may gusto siya ng spaghetti, gusto niyang kumain ng spaghetti. So, pinoproject ko yung behavior ko, yung feelings ko, na ako yung may gusto ng spaghetti. Pero, doon ko ibibigay sa'yo yung feelings na yun. Kasi, nahihiya akong aminin na ako yung may gusto. So, that is another defense mechanism ng mga bata dito. Yun. Yung mga behavior na yun na nakikita ko. So, yun, makikita ko yun sa interview. So, through interview, those are just mga basic tools na ginagamit ko kung paano ko sinusukat yung emosyon, sinusukat yung damdamin, sinusukat yung behavior. First is interview. I'm using it as a basic tool. Interview talaga. Then, second is I'm using this form na, ginagawa ko na lang siya I titled it about myself. So, doon, i-express ng bata yung tungkol sa sarili niya, damdamin niya. Kasi isa doon sa mga questions is, today I feel. Ganon yun, yung introduction. Today I feel. Meaning to say, as of the moment na ini-interview kita, ano yung feeling mo? So, kaya nga sinasabi ko, pag may parents na sumasama, sabi ko, mother, hindi yung ikaw yung susulat. Kasi ang tendency, yung feelings mo, halimbawa, yung nafe-feel mo ngayon is happy ka, yung bata nininervyos. So it's wala, hindi nagtutugma. So I want the feeling of the child. Dapat yung bata ang nagsusulat. Dapat siya yung nag-i-express. Today I feel, sabihin mo nininervyos ka. Okay, then isa dun sa questions din is, para susukatin ko lang yung emosyon ng bata is, how do you feel about your teacher? Ganon. May mga ganong questions. Tapos, how do you feel if you are being bullied? Ganon. Then, what is your favorite place to relax? Kasi malalaman mo doon sa interview na some students will say na, ma'am, nare-relax ako kapag nasa room. Or iba, ma'am, nare-relax ako kapag nasa beach. So, from there, magkakaroon ako ng idea, itong batang to is an extrovert. Or itong batang to is an introvert. Meaning to say, yung batang to mahilig lumabas, yung batang to hindi siya mahilig lumabas. Gusto lang niya yung within sa room, yung nag-iisa lang siya. So, yun yung second ko na tool na ginagamit. Yung individual inventory profile ko, na may questions doon, may part doon na about myself. So, yun lang ang ginagamit ko dito. Yun lang pinaka-basic kasi. That's all.
Dito sa Sulangon National High School, gumagamit sila ng istruktura at distrukturang obserbasyon, na kung saan inoobserbahan nila ang mga asal ng mga mag-aaral tulad ng kung sila ba ay nakikilahok, nagpapakita ng simpatya at sumusunod sa mga alituntunin. Isinasagawa rin nila ang pagsasanay sa sariling pagninilay, na kung saan ang mga mag-aaral ay nagsusulat tungkol sa kanilang damdamin at karanasan.
Affective assessment tools. Ang instrumento sa pagtataya ng apektibong domain ay nagbibigay daan sa atin upang masukat ang saloobin, interes at pagpapahalaga ng mga mag-aaral. Sa pamamagitan ng mga ito, mas naunawaan ng mga guro kung paano kumokonekta ang mga mag-aaral sa kanilang natutunan. Ang unang instrumento ay ang Likert Scale. Ito ay simple ngunit mabisang kasangkapan upang sukatin ang saloobin ng mga mag-aaral sa pamamagitan ng 5 antas, mula sa lubos na hindi sumasang-ayon hanggang sa lubos na sumasang-ayon. Ang ikalawa naman ay ang Sentence Completion. Sa Sentence Completion, tinatapos ng mga mag-aaral ang isang hindi pa tapos na pangungusap. Sa ganitong paraan na ipapahayag nila ang kanilang damdamin, paniniwala at mga saloobin. Ang pangatlo naman ang semantic differential. Sa semantic differential scale, sinusuri ng mga mag-aaral ang kanilang karanasan gamit ang magkaparis na magkasalungat na pang-uri, tulad ng kawili-wili kumpara sa nakakabagot, at sa madali kumpara sa mahirap. Kasunod naman ay ang checklist. Nagbibigay ang checklist ng isang direktang paraan upang suriin ng mga mag-aaral ang kanilang sarili at upang obserbahan ng guro ang partikular na pag-uugali tulad ng mga katangian ng growth mindset. Ang panghuli ay ang written reflection. Ang pagsusulat ng sariling pagninilay ay naghihikayat sa mga mag-aaral na ipahayag ang kanilang mga damdamin at kaisipan sa isang paksa. Pinapalalim nito ang kanilang pag-unawa sa sarili at kakayahang mag-isip ng kritikal.
So what are the importance of effective assessment tools as a teachers?
As the saying goes, a song di ay, head, hearts, and hands, the fullness of education. Kailangan pantay ang learning sa cognitive, affective, and the skills, hands, and hearts. Aron holistic ang learning sa bata.
Wow, very good!
Thank you.
Ang effective assessment tools ay nagbibigay daan sa mga guro na mauunawaan ang mga mag-aaral ng hinggit pa sa kanilang mga marka sa pagsusulit. Sa paggamit ng mga metodong ito, nakabubuo tayo ng isang kapaligiran sa pag-aaral kung saan nararamdaman ng mga mag-aaral na sila ay pinapahalagaan at nauunawaan. Real-world application of the affective domain.
These effective tools go beyond the school into adulthood, where employees now prioritize soft skills such as teamwork, adaptability, and emotional intelligence.
Good morning, Mom. As a manager, how important are soft skills in hiring employees?
This is very important, especially in this kind of industry that you are going to interact with lots of people, different kind of customers. There are customers which is patients and there are irate customers. So soft skills is more important than how you handle people, how you handle customers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. As education evolves, so does the need for a holistic approach, one that nurtures not just the minds and the hands, but also the heart. The challenge remains, how do we assess what truly matters?
The answer lies in shifting our perspective.
It's time to measure what we value, not just what is easy to quantify.
Tungkol sa talino at kasanayan. Ang tunay na layunin ng pagkatuto ay ang pagbuo ng isang tao na may malasakit sa kapwa at may disiplina sa sarili at may matibay na pagpapahalaga sa buhay. Sa pagtataya ng epektibong domain, hindi lamang natin sinusukat ang talino ng isang mag-aaral, kundi pati na rin ang kanilang puso.
Ito ang assessment in the affective domain. Ako si Anapel J. Estorco,
January B. Antipala,
Reynalyn S. Sanico,
at ito ang tunay na halaga ng pagkatuto.